The NFL trade deadline is upon us. Mariah, Janos here with Evan Lazar. Now, we saw reports from ESPN's Diana Rossini this morning that the Patriots want a first-round pick and a player in exchange for Stephon Gilmore. Is this just way too much to ask?
Well, that's where you start in a negotiation, right, Mariah? You don't want to come in with your lowest offer. You start with your highest offer. So I think that's what the Patriots are doing. But from a standpoint of a Gilmore for a player, a proven NFL veteran swap, I love that idea for the Patriots because they have really struggled with identifying wide receiver talent, tight end talent through the draft, at least so far. It's way too early to kind of make assumptions about Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene, but both of those guys are not contributing to the team right away in a big way. So it makes a lot of sense to take from a position of strength at cornerback, where we saw on Sunday against Buffalo, they can still hold up with J.C. Jackson as their top guy and Jason McCourty and John Jones trickling in behind him in a similar fashion to what they would get with Gilmore, and take from a position of strength and trade for a need. And instead of looking through the draft where it's a crapshoot, let's face it, they could get a second-round pick back for Gilmore, and that second-round pick could just as easily turn into Duke Dawson as it could Rob Gronkowski, right? You just don't know. So if you can go out there and you can trade Gilmore for a player, like let's say, I don't want to speculate, but Odell Beckham Jr.'s name has been thrown around a lot in trade speculation. You trade Gilmore for a proven stud wide receiver, strength of your roster to a weakness of your roster. I think that is probably the best return on investment that the Patriots are going to get in a Stephon Gilmore deal. So I love the idea of thinking a little bit outside the box from an NFL perspective and trying to pull off a player for player swap instead of just looking at it as a draft capital type of investment.
Now, we heard Bill Belichick mentioning rolling the cap space over. It's something they're definitely taking into consideration. So with that being said, are you really expecting anything out of the Patriots today?
I am not expecting the Patriots to be buyers by any means at this deadline. I think what Belichick said about the salary cap made a whole lot of sense. They have $22 million in salary cap space right now. That, according to my buddy Miguel Benzon, aka Pat's Cap, if you don't already follow him on Twitter, now's the day to start following him on Twitter because he knows everything there is to know about the Patriots salary cap. And you look at that $22 million, they can carry most of that, depending on how much they spend the rest of the season, over to the 2021 season, where the salary cap is going to be lower due to lost revenue from the coronavirus. And 10 teams to be exact, are going to be over the cap, that are going to have to be cap compliant by the start of the league here in March. And secondly, not a ton of teams have a ton of wiggle room or flexibility with the cap to go out and be big spenders. So the Patriots can actually set themselves up in a position with that rollover and with the cap space that they're going to acquire with players coming off the books to be one of the few teams that has cap space in a free agency market that is going to be pretty robust at some of the positions where they need players. So I think that's a great philosophy and a great idea. And if it were me at this point in time, I'm sticking pat with this roster that I have now. I'm seeing which guys are guys that I'm going to be able to hold on to and play with and win with next at the next sort of iteration of this Patriots team, which are the ones that we're going to end up selling off or, dumping at the end of the year and moving forward. So you can get an honest investment about this team. If you go ahead and you trade Stephon Gilmore and Joe Thuney and everybody else, then what are we really finding out about some of these other guys when they're not being propped up by some of the better players that are still on the team? So I think that's exactly where the Patriots' heads are at right now. I really don't expect a whole lot of movement. There's nothing brewing big time as of right now. So I think we're headed towards a little bit of a quiet deadline for the Patriots.
All right, we'll see what happens. And if anything comes up, of course, we will let you all know. For all of our Patriots coverage, head to clnsmedia.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel over at Patriots Press Pass.